So I'm here today to talk about this lie that has held me hostage all my life. I was a secret. I am the product of a secret love affair, if that's what you want to call it. And I was born April 3rd, 1978 to Doris Strickland. And I was named after my father, George Strickland Sr. And come to find out, the man that I was named after wasn't my biological father. You know, I had a pretty good childhood coming up. I am the youngest of four sisters. And so I was spoiled coming up through childhood, pretty much had my way. Probably around when I was in junior high, I just started feeling like this disconnect with my father, George Strickland Sr. And I really couldn't pinpoint what it was. I just know like we just didn't bond. We just didn't connect. And I knew it was something awkward about their relationship. And so fast forward, I get to high school. So I started hearing rumors of this man named Oliver Brothers being my father. And I didn't really think nothing of it at the time because living in a small town of Marlin where I live, rumors were quite common. And so I didn't really put too much weight on it. But then the rumors, they started to progress. And as they started to progress, I remember asking my mama about what I had heard. And so, of course, she denied it. And so I didn't have no reason not to believe, what she was telling me. So I didn't put too much weight on it. Well, as time progressed, me and my father's, George Strickland Sr.'s relationship began to grow even more distant. If I can back up a little bit, just when I was younger, when I was a child, I just remember how I used to long for him to spend time with me. But he worked all the time, and he worked on the railroad, so he was gone during the week, and then he would come home on the weekends, and then when he would come home on the weekends, he was still working. And so now that I'm older, I don't hold that against him because, you got to work to provide for your family. And believe you me, my sisters and I, my mother, we didn't want for anything. Yeah. But the little boy within me didn't understand that at that time. And so I remember my mother, she used to beg him to like spend some time with me. But like I say, it just didn't happen. And so, and although he worked all the time, pretty much, but there was some time in there that could have been taken advantage of, but nevertheless it wasn't. And so as I'm going through high school, I started going through changes. I started having, I would say, mental health issues with depression, things like that. And I really couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. I started drinking real heavy. It was like I was searching for who I was. It was just like this void that just couldn't be, fulfilled. And so I knew I was having problems with my schoolwork, and that's where some of the depression came from. Then I was having relationship issues at that time. And so, but as I look back over my life and I look at that period of my life, it makes me wonder if some of that stemmed from the fact that my dad and I didn't have a close relationship, and that I just felt like I just didn't belong where I was. I'm not gonna say I felt like I didn't belong in the family that I was in, because don't get me wrong, I was loved by my mother and my sisters, but it was like I just felt like I just didn't, George Strickland Sr. and I, there was something that was just off, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And so I remember also too confronting my mother about my name when I was younger. I remember telling her, I said, why did you give me this name George? This name don't fit me. And little did I know at that time that I was actually picking apart a lie or a secret that she was keeping from me. So, like I said, as the rumors progressed, I began to ask her about it more. And the more I asked her about it, the more she denied it. And then somehow or another, I remembered being around Oliver when I was little. I couldn't have been no more than about 5 or 6 years old at the time. And so I remember being around him, and then I remember there were a few occasions where he bought me some shoes for school. And as those memories began to come to my mind, I got to thinking, why would this man do this for someone that's not his son? So I went back to my mama. Hey, I remember him doing this, and this for me. I remember being around him. Like, kind of like, what's up with that? So, of course, she still denied it. But I knew something just wasn't right.
So about how old were you when you started realizing, okay, I remember this when I was 5 years old. About how old were you at that time?
I had to be in my early 20s during this time where I made the discovery of remembering being around this man and him buying me shoes for school. And like I said, I confronted her about what I remembered, and she still denied it. I can't remember if she, said that, they were just friends or, whatever the case. But like I say, but I knew something wasn't right. And I remember running into him at a gas station. But before I ran into him at the gas station, people that I knew started coming to me and was like, hey, Oliver Brothers says he's your dad. So now this rumor that I was hearing through school just from other people, now I'm hearing it come from him. And so I'm like, well, why would this man be saying that he's my daddy if he's not? So, like I say, this was in my early 20s. And all through my early 20s of trying to have that conversation with my mama, she denied it. So then a breakthrough comes when I was 33 years old. After being persistent about wanting to know the truth, because at that point I was just adamant about, I began to get angry, to be honest with you, because I felt like I was being lied to. And then the dots started connecting in my mind about my relationship with my father, George Strickland Sr. And I'm feeling like, well, wow, maybe this is why he didn't bond with me, because he knew I wasn't his son. And then I remember on some occasions where he and we would have heated arguments, and some of the things that he would say to me. And I was, in my mind, I was like, man, how could you say what you just said to me and you truly love me? So as I'm recanting all this in my mind, I'm thinking like he knew that I wasn't his son, which is why he, treated me the way that he did. And so I'm 33 years old, and when I talked to my mother about the Oliver situation this time, she finally came clean and gave me the answer that I had been searching for, all my life. Well, I'm not going to say all my life, but since I came into the knowledge that there was a possibility that Oliver Brothers could be my daddy. And so when she admitted that, it was like a weight that had been lifted off of me. Her giving me that, in some small way, I guess it validated who I was. Because prior to that point, as I think back over my life, I was always like searching for male attention. When I was younger, my brother-in-laws were those big brothers that I really needed in my life. Because, like I say, my daddy at that time, he just, we didn't spend any time with each other. And like I say, work was a lot of that. And so I don't hold that against him. But that little boy at that time didn't understand that. So my brother-in-laws, when my sisters got married, my brother-in-laws would take up time with me, play catch football with me, play games with me, take me on trips with them. And so that was like the saving grace that I needed at that time. And so as I began to process the new information that she gave me, it was like I found a sense of who I was. At 27, around about the age of 25 is when I gave my life to God and I answered my calling into the ministry. In essence, me finding that relationship with God, that sewed up the hole that was within me. But then when I got this new information, my mother comes clean about who my real father is. That was like an added piece of, me finding out who I really am and, what my purpose is in this life, because my relationship with God introduced me to my purpose in life. But I don't care what anyone says, when you go through something like that, when a boy's father is absent, you don't have that validation that you go through life seeking. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're seeking validation. But because you didn't get that validation from your father, you seek validation through, whether it's through sports, whether it's through mentors, whether it's through women. I mean, in any avenue that you could try to find some type of worth or validation, you do that. And I went through all of those things. And I think, which is why rejection for me was so hurtful when I wasn't accepted, when I felt like someone was blowing me off, like I sensed that real deeply, So moving forward, and now that I had this new information that this man was my father, it was freeing on one hand, but then on the other hand, it was still like a weight that I was carrying, because my mother still hadn't came clean to my father, George Strickland Sr. And so it was like, now I'm carrying her lie. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that although she did not come out and tell my father, George Strickland Sr., that I wasn't his son, I believe he knew. Because again, we live in a small town. Rumors travel fast, and I'm sure that he's heard about that rumor. In fact, I asked him about it, and he told me he did, hear about it. And so, my mother died in 2020. And after my father and our relationship, George Strickland Sr., was still experiencing some bumps, I finally just came clean to him. Told me, hey, I feel like I know why you feel the way that you feel towards me. And I began to tell him what my mama told me when I was 33 years old. And he said that he didn't know about it, but I still choose to believe otherwise. But for me, it was like I came to the conclusion that I should no longer have to carry my mother's lie. She's free now. She's no longer carrying that chain, so why should I? I was around 33 years old when my mother gave me the truth. I was around 42 years old when she passed, so a period of 9 to 10 years had went by in between her telling me the truth and her passing.
That's a long time to carry that.
Yeah, and to still, she's been gone now 3 years, and to still carry that was a long time. And I feel that by me coming clean publicly and acknowledging it is another level of freedom for me, because all this time I've been feeling like I don't want to disrespect my mother. I don't want to disrespect the man that raised me. But all the while, I'm suffering in silence, and I came to that conclusion, or I was made aware that I was still bound by this lie, this secret. Oliver Browder Sr., he got real sick, had to go into the hospital, have emergency surgery. And being there, seeing him, and just going through that experience made me realize, what if something happens to him and my name ends up in his obituary? Oh, by me being a minister, I'm his son. What if I'm the one who has to eulogize his funeral? And I shouldn't have to say, no, don't put my name in the obituary. Or no, I can't do that because I'm still holding on to someone else's secret. Yeah. When the only person that is suffering in this situation is me. I'm not trying to make myself out to be a victim or anything like that, but I do realize that I was put in a situation that I didn't ask to be in. And so I give myself permission to release that weight off of me. And it's no disrespect to the man that raised me. I'll forever respect and love George Strickland Sr. Because, like I say, he was a great provider. Although we didn't have the best relationship, the fact of the matter is that, he took care of me. And so I'll forever respect him for that. And so me knowing who my real father is doesn't make him any less of my father, because that's who I grew up with. That's who I know. That's who I respect. That's who I love. And so trying to move forward to navigate my way through two men, because it's like I'm caught in between a trap of trying to get to know one, and I have a roadblock. There are some roadblocks that are preventing me and Oliver's relationship from progressing. And then there are some roadblocks that are preventing me and George Strickland Sr.'s relationship from progressing. And so I've just come to the conclusion that, if I never get the relationship that I felt that I needed from both of these men, I'm good. Because what I really needed out of all of this was the truth. And I'm grateful that my mother gave me the truth before she passed.
That says a lot about the type of woman that she is, her to give you that information. Right. And I'm curious, did she ask you not to tell George Strickland about it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so she did. And I do commend my mother for finally having the courage to come clean with me, because I never thought about the fact that how liberating it must have been for her to finally get that out and to tell me. And although she never fully came clean with my father, George Strickland Sr., but just the fact that she came clean to me, I think that did give her a lot of liberation. And like I said, at first I was angry. I was upset that I had been lied to, because you got to understand, when you find something out like that, you feel like your whole life is a lie. The cousins that you thought were your cousins aren't really your cousins. The aunts that you thought were your aunts aren't really your aunts. And so on. And more importantly, the man that you thought his blood ran through your veins, and to know that was a lie, you know, it was a lot to process. And then, you know, I got to thinking too, did my father, George Strickland's senior family know? And I believe that they did, because I remember I was probably junior high, maybe a freshman in high school. I remember going to one of his family reunions, and I went there with a cousin of mine. And I remember the treatment that I received from certain family members that were there. It makes me wonder, like, you know, did they know all along, and that's why they treated us the way that they treated us?
It has to be devastating, though, for a child.
Yeah.
To be treated differently and to feel inadequate in some way.
Right. So yeah, so for most of my life, I felt inadequate because I didn't know it at the time that I was searching for who I was, where I came from. And so I truly believe that you will never find out who you are until you find out whose you are. And I believe that to be both spiritually and naturally. You know, when you find out who you are spiritually, that comes from knowing whose you are, and that's getting a relationship with God, your creator. And then also naturally, everyone deserves to know, where did I come from? Who are my parents? And to be deprived of that, you are robbing someone of a part of their existence. And so that inadequacy led to things like just trying to find my worth, whether it was in a bottle, whether it was through partying, whether it was through women. But again, I didn't know it at the time. But you don't realize how broken you are until you become whole. And so I'm still working towards wholeness, which is why it is important to me to talk about the difficult parts of my life like this right here. And so even as an adult, I still felt that inadequacy, because when I would do something like after I would preach, or I would do something around the house, or my wife would compliment me and say, "Hey, you did a good job," I'm thinking she's lying. And little did I know that inadequacy was still playing a part in my life. And so I was the type of person to where I was always down on myself. I always felt like no matter how good I did, it just wasn't good enough. And a lot of that, I believe, stems from coming up, you know, under a father who was always critical. You know, no matter what I did, it was never good enough. And when people, you know, would like a lot of things that I've accomplished in life, and like I say, other people would compliment me, it would just go through one ear and out the other, because I still feel like a failure.
Self-validation.
The self-validation was definitely lacking in my life. And I didn't realize that was one of the things that was leading me into this battle with depression that I've always dealt with. Because the lens in which I was seeing myself wasn't the right lens. And here it is, I have a relationship with God, but I'm not even seeing myself the way that God sees me, because the lens in which I'm seeing myself is warped. It's distorted. So yeah, inadequacy played a big part into my life. And to be honest with you, that's one of the things that I'm still working on.
Well, you've come a long way. I think that, you know, just through knowing you, I mean, this was definitely a secret, as you say. This was definitely something that has thrown me for a loop. And I'm just thinking through all of the things that you've been through and all of the experiences that you've worked through. You are now still facing a challenge that's a pretty big one.
Right.
It's added a new element to your life that you're having to navigate.
Right. I mean, this is definitely an element in my life that I have to navigate on top of the other things, all the other things that I have to navigate.
Right.
And so I wouldn't say, that I have a bad life, because in spite of the things that I've gone through and I'm still going through, I'm still grateful. I'm still grateful that God would even choose me to carry out his purpose on the earth. Because when I think about the fact that, man, I come from an adulterous relationship. My mother was married at the time that she had me with Oliver. Oliver, he was married. And when you think about that from a spiritual aspect, my life should have been cursed. And it's very humbling for me to know that, God, you would still choose me. You would still choose me, and you would still trust me. Because this person that felt inadequate, this person that felt like dirt most of his life, this person who always felt like he wasn't good enough, God, you want me? That's still mind blowing to me. And it's still something that I have yet to figure out. But I tell you what, I'm grateful. And every battle, every storm, every challenge, every adversity that God has brought me through, I do believe that it was working for a greater purpose in my life. Although everything may not make sense, but I'm a firm believer in Romans 8:28, where it says that, and we know that all things work together for good of them that love God and to the called according to his purpose. That means that the good, the bad, and the ugly in my life is working together for the good. And a lot of times we don't think any good can come out of something bad because we don't see how it can work for the good. But it is not our place or position to try to work it for the good. God said that he will work it and make it for our good. And that's where I'm at, is giving him the pieces of my life, the broken pieces of my life, and saying, God, this is too much for me. God, you do something with this, because I can't. The more I try to clean it up, the more I mess up.
And only he can.
And only he can do it. He's the only one. So, but like I say, just talking about this and bringing this to the forefront is liberating for me, because one of the things that I discovered was this. For me, it's like I've been caught in between this lie all of my life. And what came to me was this: what is the difference between lie, the two words lie, and life? The only difference is an F, one word. So this lie has now become life, because the F for me stands for freedom and forgiveness. So this lie, which once held me hostage, this lie that had so much power on my life, it is now turned into life because I have forgiven. I forgive my mama. I don't hold no ill will towards my mother, because I understand that we all make mistakes. We all do things that we aren't proud of. I've done plenty of things in my life that I'm not proud of. Truth be told, people looking at this have done things in their life that they aren't proud of. Well, one of the things that I am proud of my mother for, my mother, she changed her life. She gave her life to God. She repented of her sins. And so for me, that F word between lie and life has given me life, because I've chosen to forgive, and I've chosen to have freedom from this lie, freedom from feeling like that I have to continue the lie. And I give myself permission to heal. I give myself permission to be released from somebody else's chains.
Yeah.
Like I say, my mother's dead and gone. These are chains that she's no longer carrying. And I refuse to carry those chains myself.
Yeah.
And so in realizing that I have to free myself, regardless of who it may hurt, regardless of who may understand. I have to do this for me. This is Slugger's journey. And my way to healing may not be what someone else's way to healing or process may be. And so here I am. You know, oftentimes we want to be used for God's glory, but what we fail to realize is that we're going to go through some undesirable things in order for His glory to be seen through us. And looking over my life, looking at the difficulties and the adversities that I've gone through, it has made me into who I am. It has developed a resilient faith, because you have to understand, at the time that I was searching for a relationship with a father that led me towards my Heavenly Father, that led me to lean and depend on Him for guidance that I didn't get elsewhere. And so I learned to rely on my faith. I learned what faith was in the difficult parts of my life. And that's why nobody can convince me otherwise that God isn't real. Because I've seen what He has done in my life and what He's doing in my life. And that's why my faith is just relentless. Now, like I say, it's difficult. I still hurt. I'm still human. But for the most part, I refuse to allow the negative parts of my life to put me in a negative space.
What do you hope for your life going forward?
Well, going forward, what I hope to gain from this is freedom. Freedom is healing. I've already been healed from the fact of Oliver is my dad. I've come to the realization of that. I was healed from the lie. But now the second part is about being free from the lie. Not feeling like I have to carry the legacy of the lie and have to hide my truth of who my father really is. And so going forward, I just want to be free. And hopefully that this story will help someone else to become free. Me being in ministry, my life is not my own. And so I believe that we go through things, not just to go through them, but we grow through them. But then I also believe that through our testimony, that we help others to heal. We help others to become whole. We help others to know that there is a God who still heals, delivers, and sets free. And so ultimately my whole purpose, behind this, besides gaining the freedom and the healing that I need myself, is that hopefully someone else that may be going through the same thing would experience freedom and healing as well.
Think about your children going forward. They won't have to carry that lie
Right.
going forward.
Right.
They will have a better sense of who they are, because they know, like you said, whose they are and from where they came, whose they are and where
Right.
they belong. So they have a better sense of who they are as a person.
Right. And you're absolutely right, because me finding out the truth was bigger than just me finding out for myself. I have two boys that are the ages 28 and 25. And so not only was it important for me to know who I was and to know where I come from, I needed that information for them as well. Because again, this is bigger than me. And so one of the things that we do, especially within the Black family, we are good at keeping secrets. We are good at not revealing truths. And what we fail to realize by doing that, it causes a lot of damage within the lives of individuals. And this is why I believe that we have so many broken families. One of the reasons why I believe that we do. And so, for me, like I say, finding out that truth was important because it was not only something that I needed to know, but it was something that my boys needed to know. And then I have grandchildren. And so I can now pass this information on down to them as well. Because you never know. What if you run across a cousin or one of your relatives and, you end up marrying one of your cousins or dating one of your cousins? So that's why the truth in situations like these are so important. And then not only that, you think about some of the different diseases and things that may run through the family.
Yeah.
Knowing that knowing where you come from so that you can know what generational curses that you are up against. It gives you clear direction on what you need to be praying for and what you need to be praying against. And so, that's why it is very important to just come clean with the truth. But then I also think about the timing of when my mother gave me the truth. I think the timing of giving the truth in a situation like this right here is very key as well. Because I remember my mother told me, she said, if I had told you at the time that you wanted to know, you wouldn't have been able to handle it. And she is right. Had she told me that in high school, when I was dealing with the mental issues that I was dealing with, when I was dealing with depression, then there were times when, I attempted suicide. Knowing information like that at that time would have been detrimental. How detrimental? I really can't say, but I just know in the mind state that I was in at that time, if I had found that out, I don't think it would have been good for me. So the timing that she told me, not only did she know, but ultimately God knew the timing of when I needed to know.
And that's so key.
Yes. To everything, there's a time and a season for every purpose under heaven. And then I think about the fact that she told it to me before she died. That was one of the best gifts she could have given me besides life before she left this earth, was the truth.
Yeah.
Because some people die without ever coming clean. And within the Black family, like I say, we're big on keeping secrets. And somewhere in there, we've adopted this ideology that there are some things that you just take to the grave with you. Now, true, we all have skeletons in our closet that we got to keep locked into that closet.
Yeah.
But when it affects other people's lives,
Yeah.
I believe that that's when the skeleton needs to come out of the closet, because it's not just about you.
That's right.
It's about this individual that is in this life that is involved in this. And this life can be potentially messed up by a secret or a lie that's being held on to.
Mm-hmm. What do you imagine? I mean, to me, it seems like she may have been, your mother was probably between a rock and a hard place, because she's having to protect you from two different men.
Right.
Like you said earlier, you kind of were in the middle.
Right.
And she's trying to protect you. And I wonder, from a father's perspective, I'm wondering, how he looked at that. Did he feel that, she was babying you, or, trying to keep you
Right.
under her wing?
Right. Right. That very well did take place, because my mother, she did shelter me, she did protect me, and it was seen from my father, George Strickland Sr., as if you're babying him, you spoiling him. And come to find out, Oliver brought a senior, he felt the same way as well. You know, that my mother, she's calling me, she's babying me, she's spoiling me. But what I didn't know is that she was actually protecting me from two men that she knew how their mindsets were. And she was shielding me from the venom that she knew that eventually would come out from both of these men. And when I tell you that I got a chance to tell her thank you for not only telling me when she did, but also for shielding me and protecting me, because as I started developing a relationship with Oliver, there were certain things that I learned about who this person is, how he thinks, how he functions, and what makes him tick. And so it was like I was caught in between their disdain for my mother. And so I would get negative things said about my mother from both sides. And so I don't care. Yeah, you may feel a certain type of way about my mother, but keep that to yourself. That's not information that you're gonna give to me and expect for me to be okay with it.
That's your mother.
Or disrespecting my mother.
Yeah.
And I don't care what she did, how she did it. At the end of the day, that's still my mother. And I ask you to respect it. And if you can't respect that, then you have to respect my absence. And so she did protect me. She did coddle me. And I now understand why she did shield me, in a sense, from those two individuals.
And I could say she probably was even trying to substantiate that love, to give that additional love that was probably absent from George Sr.
She did.
That you felt like maybe you were missing a part of.
Right. And my mother sensed that I was searching for myself. She sensed that there was a piece of me that I was looking for, and the love that I didn't get from George Strickland Sr. She did her best to like fill in that gap. So I did get a lot of extra love. You know, even my sisters will tell you to this day, oh, that boy was spoiled. But I do believe that it was her way of giving me extra attention that she knew that I needed.
Yeah.
Trying to make up I believe she was trying to make up for that love that I didn't get from my father, or either one of my fathers in this case.
Yeah. Wow, that's just gotta be liberating, and especially to hear a man and a black man to say those things that, you know, touching that innermost part of your being, who you are, and identifying, because it ain't easy to sit in those thoughts. It's not easy to search through those thoughts.
It's not. And I believe that there are a lot of broken black men because they didn't get that validation. Yeah. They didn't get that pat on the back. Some don't even know who their fathers are, where he's at. And then there are some that know who their fathers are, but then yet he was absent. Yeah. And then in my case, like I grew up in a home with a father, but yet he was absent in my life, because when it came to me playing sports, when it came to me doing anything extracurricular, it was always my mama there. It was always my sisters there. And even at my graduation, my dad didn't come to my graduation. It was my mother and my sisters that were there. So like the important things in my life, he was always missing. And so growing, and when you experience something like that, you develop certain traumas that you don't realize that you develop. So when someone rejects you, you may go over the top, or you may feel extra sensitive, and people look at you and they be like, oh, well, he acting like a girl, or he being extra sensitive. No, you're dealing with a broken man that was once rejected. And so you have men that are 40, 50, 60 years old, but still have that little boy within them that was never healed.
Seeking validation.
Right, seeking validation, you know. And so, like I say, I'm still realizing what some of my traumas are myself. And it's not that I'm looking for someone to blame, because I take full 100% accountability for my actions as a man. But I'm also understanding why am I wired the way that I'm wired? Why do I respond to certain situations the way that I respond to them? And as I find out what my triggers and my traumas are, it kind of helps me to dissect my life and to pinpoint, this is why you are malfunctioning because of this. And so, and I believe that that's why things like therapy is important, because this was one of the things that I talked about with my therapist, and she helped to shed light on this situation that I'm dealing with. And then just even in my relationship with God, just through prayer and God revealing things to me as I go along. And that has been very helpful as well. And so, like I say, out of all of this, I'm just searching for healing and wholeness. Because when you're broken, you have other people that are dependent on you to be whole, such as your wife, your children, your grandchildren. So I can't afford to stay broken. It's like I have to do what's necessary in order to become whole and functioning, because there are people that are dependent upon me. But then in some strange way, out of this brokenness, God has cultivated my anointing. It's really hard to explain, because the way God's work, the way he works is just so mysterious. And out of all of my adversities and out of all of my mess, he still chooses to use me to bring forth a message. And I wouldn't have a message if it wasn't for the brokenness. I wouldn't be able to identify with people with where they are had I not gone through some of the things that I've gone through. And so, and I believe that when we go through things, it is not just for us, that it's also to help someone else. That is my life's mission, to help somebody along the way, even if it's through my brokenness, because I still don't have all the answers to this.
None of us do.
I mean, I don't. I'm still feeling my way through this by faith. And so, with the support of my wife, with the support of God first and foremost, and with the support of my family and friends, this is something, that, like I say, it's kind of like I'm learning to make the best out of a bad situation. And now I'm turning this pain into purpose. Mm-hmm. Because I just believe that God doesn't allow us to go through anything without a purpose.
That's right.
Regardless of how horrific it is, regardless of how painful it may be, mm-hmm. that if we put those pieces in his hand, that out of these pieces will become this beautiful puzzle.
Yeah.
But we got to give him the pieces. And so for me, that's why my dependency will forever and always be upon God, because I'll never be able to make sense out of this thing called life. I would have never found out who I am or what my purpose is without my Creator. And to know that even though I came here through an adulterous relationship, that the Creator still allowed me to be created, and that he created me for such a time as this, and that he created me to be a vessel for him, and that my past does not dictate my future. My past does not halt my future. Yeah. And that no sin no discrepancy, no inadequacy, no lie, no secret can stop what he has ordered to come forth. And to me, that is the most humbling, but also the most powerful takeaway that I get from this. And so it also helps me with forgiveness. That if God still chose to use me despite of my flaws and my frailties, then who am I to not forgive anyone else? Whether it be my mother, whether it be my father, one of my fathers. Because like I say, I'm still navigating my way through two men, And so the fact that God looked beyond how I was created, but the fact still remains that I was created by him. And I was created for such a time as this.